Have you ever wondered what exactly your soul is worth in a country that only counts your hours? You land at JFK Airport on a Tuesday in November. The air smells like jet fuel and cold, salted rain. You stand outside Terminal 4, watching the yellow taxis disappear into a gray horizon. In your right hand, you're gripping a single $100 bill. It's crisp and clean. Back home, this piece of paper was a fortune. It was 2 months of rent. It was a reason to celebrate. But as you stand here, shivering in a jacket that's too thin for a New York winter, you realize the math has changed. In this city, $100 doesn't buy you a future. It barely buys you a few hours of survival. You aren't here for a vacation. You didn't come for the lights of Times Square or a photo with the Statue of Liberty. You came because back home, the arithmetic of life stopped working. You came to find a version of yourself that could actually afford to breathe. But the first thing America teaches you is that every breath here has a price tag. Back home, you were a son, a neighbor, a friend with a name people respected. Here, as the sliding doors of the airport hiss shut behind you, that identity dies. You are no longer a person. You are a labor unit. You are a set of hands that hasn't found a kitchen yet. You are a number in a system that doesn't care if you stay or if you vanish. Stay with me for the next 30 minutes. Because by the end of this story, you'll understand why the most expensive thing you brought to America wasn't the plane ticket. It was the hope that you could beat the math. Welcome to New York. The countdown has already begun. Your first night in America isn't spent in a bed, it's spent in a state of calculation. You find a hostel in Queens where $16 buys you a thin mattress in a room shared with 6 other men. The air smells like damp laundry and cheap floor cleaner. You lie there listening to the sirens of New York, realize that every hour you sleep is an hour you aren't earning. By 6 a.m., you're back on the street. You start walking because a Subway swipe costs $2.90, and right now, that's the price of a loaf of bread. You walk until the blisters on your heels burst, and then you walk some more. The job hunt isn't about resumes, it's about survival. You walk into back entrances of kitchens, smelling of grease and old onions. You don't look for a manager, you look for someone who looks like they once stood where you're standing. Most doors stay closed. But eventually, a man with tired eyes points to a sink full of plates. No paperwork. No name. Just $15 an hour, paid in cash at the end of the week. This is where the identity death truly begins. Back home, you were a person with a history. You had a degree sitting in a drawer and a family that called you by a name that meant something. Here, you are just the guy at the third sink. People look through you, not at you. You are a ghost in the machine of a city that only values what your hands can produce. You realize that your college education doesn't wash dishes any faster. Your pride is the first thing you have to discard, because in New York, pride is a luxury that costs more than $100. By the end of the first week, your back feels like it's made of broken glass, and you realize that the American dream is a physical war, and you are currently losing. Time in America doesn't move in days or weeks, it moves in shifts. You stop looking at the calendar and start looking at the clock. Your life becomes a series of 14-hour loops. You wake up in the dark, you work in a windowless kitchen, and you walk home in the dark. The $100 you arrived with is long gone, replaced by a bank account that grows so slowly it feels like it's mocking you. You start calculating the value of your life in chicken sandwich math. You realize that 1 hour of standing over a deep fryer, breathing in atomized grease, equals exactly 2 sandwiches and a soda. Every time you eat, you aren't just consuming calories, you're consuming 10 minutes of your life that you'll never get back. The loneliness is the quietest part of the grind. You are surrounded by millions of people in a city that never sleeps, yet you go days without anyone saying your name. Back home, you were part of a fabric. Here, you are a loose thread. You stop calling home as often. It's too hard to explain the grayness of the subway or the way your hands are always peeling from the industrial soap. When you do call, you talk about the skyscrapers and the lights, but you never mention the $1 pizza slices you eat standing under the bridge because it's the only way to save $50 a week. You see people on the street with the latest iPhones and expensive coffee, and for a second, you feel a flash of anger. But then you realize they aren't your neighbors, they are the audience, and you are just the stagehand moving the furniture while they watch the show. You've become invisible. You realize that the American dream isn't a destination, it's a treadmill. And the faster you run, the more the machine demands. You are building a life, but you are too tired to actually live it. You're just a ghost earning a paycheck, waiting for a tomorrow that looks exactly like today. 2 years pass by. The dark circles under your eyes have become a permanent part of your face. That original $100 bill has finally grown into a small bank balance. But then, One day, everything stops. Maybe you cut your hand during a rush shift, or maybe a tooth starts aching so badly that you can no longer stand. You find yourself sitting on a plastic chair in a cold clinic, and that's when you learn the true cost of staying alive in America. A simple checkup swallows 3 months of your hard-earned savings in a single afternoon. That's the day you realize you haven't been earning money all these years. You've just been selling your time so that you can afford to go to work for one more day. In that same kitchen, there's an old man everyone calls Old Sam. He's been washing dishes at the exact same sink where you stand for 30 years. During a break, he uses his trembling, calloused fingers to show you a photo of his grandchildren on a cracked phone screen. He smiles and tells you he built the biggest house in his village back home. But then, his voice drops. He says, "I built the house, but I never found the time to live in it. My children don't recognize my voice, they only recognize the money I send." In that moment, you see your own future reflected in Sam's tired eyes. You realize you've become a part of the machine. You didn't come to America just to be a machine that pays bills. You came here to live. But here, buying back enough time to actually live requires an amount of money you might never have. You stand in the dark alley behind the kitchen, watching the smoke of your cigarette vanish into the cold air, and you wonder, is this the success I left home for? Your bank account is filling up, but every passing day, your soul feels a little more empty. 5 years have passed since you stood outside JFK with that single $100 bill. You aren't that person anymore. You've moved out of the shared hostel into a small, quiet apartment. You have a car. You have a bank account that finally looks like the success you dreamed of back home. But as you sit in your car in the middle of a midnight traffic jam, surrounded by the cold neon glow of New York, you realize that the math of the American dream has a hidden tax. You look at your hands. They aren't the hands of the young man who landed here. They are rough, scarred, and always tired. You realize that for every dollar you put in the bank, you traded an hour of your mother's voice, a friend's wedding you missed, and the smell of the air back home after a summer rain. You've earned the money, but you've lost the version of yourself that knew how to enjoy it. You are a success on paper, but a ghost in reality. You realize that the dream isn't about getting rich, it's about a never-ending exchange where you sell your life to buy back your survival. You think back to that $100 bill. It was small, but it was full of possibility. Now, you have thousands, but the possibility is gone. You are locked into a rhythm of bills, rent, and insurance. You are a part of the machine now. You've built a house across the ocean that you only see through a smartphone screen. You pay for lives you no longer share. This is the silent tragedy of the immigrant. You leave home to build a future, only to realize the future is just a place where you work to pay for the past. You aren't living in America, you are just working here. And as the city lights flicker in your rearview mirror, you ask yourself the most expensive question of all. If you could go back to that rainy day at the airport and hold that $100 bill one last time, would you still walk through those sliding doors? Or would you turn around and keep the only thing America couldn't help you buy, your time? If you've ever felt the weight of a dream that cost more than you expected, you aren't alone. We are all just trying to make the math work. If this story spoke to the part of you that's still searching for home, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what is the one thing you've lost in the pursuit of making it? Because in this city, the silence is loud, but your story deserves to be heard.